What is going on, everybody? Been a diehard Pistons fan since '03 and eager to see this team getting back to playing winning basketball. In today's video, we are going to talk about 5 of the biggest trade targets across the NBA and the possibility of them coming onto the Pistons. So, to preface this, I don't think any of these players are likely to get traded to the Pistons this offseason, and I don't think that any of them are likely to get traded to the Pistons, period. But there is a non zero chance and a possibility that with the new leadership, we end up taking a swing on one of these players at some point throughout the year. I'm not saying it's likely, but these are guys who are all rumored to be on the trade block. And if we are to go down that route, I do want to talk about how they would look with the Pistons. I'm not going to talk too much about what we would have to give up in exchange. It's really hard to say how these teams value our young core and our young assets that would likely be going out for a lot of these players. Trades get weird in the NBA. Sometimes there can be 3 teams. But nevertheless, to get into it, the first player in order of the guys that I would least likely to see and want to see on the team to the players that I most would want to see on the team, starting off at number 5 is Zach LaVine. So Zach LaVine has been in Piston trade rumors since what feels like the dawn of time. Realistically, it's probably been somewhere around a calendar year at this point. He's 29 years old. He had a injury-riddled year last year where he was down from 25 points to 20 points per game. Funny enough, the only Pistons game I went to last year was opening night where Zach LaVine scored 50 against us and the Pistons still managed to win. But he's just not high on this list because this trade would scream of Blake Griffin vibes. Now, I know Blake Griffin did have a good solid year and some change in Detroit, but he was coming in with an injury history at almost 30 years old, just like Zach LaVine would be, and I just don't think it would be all of that great timing. If it was 3 years ago and the Pistons were in the exact same spot where they are right now with a third-year Cade Cunningham, I'd maybe say pull the trigger on it. But when you factor in his injury history and his contract, I just don't like the vibes of Zach LaVine coming onto this team personally. So moving on to number 4, we have Draymond Green. The reason why Draymond is making this list is because he's actually brought some of these rumors upon himself over the past week. Draymond was on a podcast where he said, if the Warriors send me to a bad team, make sure it's the Pistons. Of course, he's here from Saginaw, went to Michigan State, played under Izzo for quite a while, so he does have the ties to the home state. But just like Zach LaVine, this is one that you easily could have talked me into a couple of years back, but at this point, I just don't think so. He's 34 years old. He's under contract, I believe, until he's like 37. And as great as Draymond was during the main Warriors prime run, I just don't see it no more with Draymond. Not to the degree where you would want to give up young, good assets for him to bring him in and then have him be a member of the core starting 5 and one of our, top players. I really appreciate what Draymond did on the floor for the Warriors back in their title runs and all that. I thought he was great back then on both sides of the floor. I thought that he was obviously good defensively and very underrated offensively as a playmaker, passer, and all that, especially from all the 3-on-2 situations that Curry would create for him. He was a master at that, but just like Zach LaVine, I think we're a couple 2 years late on this one. So moving on to number 3, and that is going to be Brandon Ingram. Now, Brandon Ingram is 26 years old. He slipped a little bit statistically last year, dropping from 25 points per game the previous season down to 20 last season. And Brandon Ingram is one that has also been in rumors for a long time, just like Zach LaVine. So towards the end of the year last year when the Pelicans were fighting for their playoff hopes, Brandon Ingram actually got benched and was playing behind guys like Trey Murphy and Herb Jones for the Pelicans at points of crucial games, which I don't think was a great sign for his future with the Pelicans. I know that he obviously hasn't got traded to this point, but I'm surprised he hasn't because I just feel like there's kind of a logjam over there in New Orleans at that forward spot. The reason why he's not number 2 or number 1 on this list is mostly because 1, whatever we have to give up would be more than some of the other guys on this list. And 2, he likes to go to work on the same spots of the floor as Cade does, and I just don't see it being a natural fit. He's taken a lot less threes over the past couple of years, and his favorite kind of money spot to be is right at the exact same spot where Cade's is, which is that free throw line extended vertical, free throw line extended horizontal, where he likes to get to the mid-range and get his stuff off right in that spot. So would just not be a great fit next to Cade, I don't feel like. I don't think that they'd have a great time playing off of each other. I just kind of hypothetically imagine a Cade and Brandon Ingram offense not being a free-flowing, easy to watch offense and more of a you go to work, I go to work type of offense. I just don't like the idea of it. Either way, Brandon Ingram's a great player, and if for whatever reason the Pistons did try and take a swing on bringing him in, I feel like I could probably talk myself into it, but I would have to see it first. Coming in at number 2 is D'Angelo Russell. Now, D'Angelo Russell, I don't really know how the Lakers front office feels about him. This is more coming from Lakers fans on Twitter, but they seem to want him gone. D'Angelo Russell is 28 years old. Last year, he averaged 18 points per game on 41% from 3. Now, I know with D'Angelo Russell, he's really the only point guard on this list, and you might ask, what about Cade at that point? Well, for one, if we were to get D'Angelo Russell, he would probably take priority over everybody on this team besides Cade, so I really wouldn't worry about it, and I think that him and Cade probably could play together. I've always liked D'Angelo Russell, even back at his Ohio State days. I think that his time in Brooklyn when he was an all-star, he was a bit underrated, but his time in LA on both stints, I feel like is hyper-analyzed. They want him to be something he isn't, but what he actually is not a bad basketball player and a player who raises the ceiling on a team like the Detroit Pistons that don't have too many talents like D'Angelo Russell. So would I be willing to trade off 2 of the core 4 to get D'Lo? No, not a chance. Not even think about it. But if the Lakers do want to move off his money and things start to make sense, I could definitely go ahead and be open to watching a Cade and D'Lo backcourt. Coming in at number 1 is the pipe dream for myself and a lot of other Pistons fans, and that is Lowry Markkanen. Well, the problem with this is to get Lowry at this point, for one, his GM is Danny Ainge, who doesn't make a trade unless he feels like he's winning it by a country mile, and all sorts of other roadblocks. But like I said, I don't want to get into that side of things too much in this video. Speaking specifically on a team fit for Lowry Markkanen, in a world where you bring him in and you still have Cade at the 1 and you have Duren at the 5 with Lowry at the 4, we're starting to talk about playoffs tomorrow in that case. He's only 28 years old, or 27 years old. Last year he averaged 23 points per game on 8 rebounds, which might not sound like craziness, but the thing is he does it on excellent efficiency. He's nearly 50, 40, 90, while being a number 1 option on a team where defenses could key in and focus on him. I feel like just watching him play next to Cade, those two could play off each other better than Cade could play off of anybody else on this list. You could run him at the 4 with Duren at the 5. Now all of a sudden you have a lineup with a lot of size, 2 guys that are 6'10 plus on the 4. I just think this would be incredible. The only roadblock is what it would take to get him would be a laundry list of assets that we probably either 1 don't have or 2 don't want to part ways with. So as great as it would be, I don't see how it happens. But if I woke up to a notification on my phone that the Pistons is traded for Lowry Markkanen, I wouldn't know what to do with myself because I would be so excited to watch him come in and play next to Cade. Let me know if there's anybody out there who's been in trade rumors who you guys are interested in. Maybe guys on this list that I don't believe in enough. Maybe some other guys who didn't make this list. Like I said, this is pretty unlikely to happen. But with a new GM coming in, all things considered, if the Pistons make a swing for the fences trade at some point this year, I wouldn't be totally shocked. I'd say it has a fair 10 to 20% chance of happening. So, I'll catch up with y'all soon.